everybody. Welcome. This is my friend, LA's most beloved drag queen, Pickle.
Hi, it's me. It's really me.
It's really him.
You didn't think I'd really be here.
And go ahead, and he's going to go, because we're going live. He's also going to go live on his page, so he's going to do that. And before we get into it and give people time to tune in, I just wanted to say, you guys, I've started doing exercise after a year and a few months of literally just laying down. Hey, Christina. Yeah, it's just one of those things where I've just been so griefy and lazy that pretty much on this couch, this actual couch with this actual Afghan, I've spent a lot of quality grieving time, and I've just got to move my limbs, or as my dad used to say, make your legs do this. So, hi, Beth. Good to see you, Beth. Let me know where everybody's tuning in from as well. So, yeah, so I'm going back to yoga, believe it or not. And today was my second class. And when you haven't done yoga in a really long time, it's intense. So I've taken a lot of aspirin and Epsom salts, lots of Epsom salts and baths. And
soaking.
Yeah, I mean, you just came from yoga, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, when I take my monthly trips to Nepal, I really try to make sure that I'm taking care of myself.
That's right.
My skin.
It just centers you.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it just really center you?
Yeah.
And you just really.
It's like spending quality time with God.
Yeah.
And the ground.
Okay. Christina wants to know, will you still eat donuts with me? Yeah. I mean, it just so happens that the yoga studio that I'm able to walk to is right next to this new French bakery that opened up. And so as a treat, as a reward for doing yoga, my second whole time, I celebrated with a chocolate croissant.
A croissant.
And it was
Le pain de croissant.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Or as we say in the trailer court, it ain't good. But I'm so excited. Oh, did you link your thing?
I did.
Okay, so we're all linking. It's a beautiful experience. Let's see. Should we tell them of our history, of our sordid history? Or...
Sure, yeah.
I've known...
The alleys.
Yes, I've known Pickle since you were a wee tot.
It was a tiny
basically.
Creature,
and
yeah.
then I babysat for Pickle, and then I babysat for Pickle when you were a little queenager.
Yeah.
And it was show tunes 24/7. Lots of dancing.
Lots of dancing.
Lots of drama. I actually had to basically, lay some rules down, and the biggest rule was no shimmying at the dinner table.
No shimmying at the dinner table.
You remember that?
You taught me how to eat nicely. How to use a knife and a fork. I was kind of savage.
You were kind of a little savage queen. Yeah, just kind of just shoveling it in, like in record time. And I said, if you ever want any cute boys to like you, you need to be a little more dignified.
Yeah, and it worked.
The knife and the fork. European style, because when I moved to London, I mean, I was fresh from the trailer court. When I lived in London, England for 6 years, and when I first moved over there, everybody ate with two hands, and it was confusing to me, because basically Americans, you just stab a piece of meat with your fork and then saw at it very, unladylike, and then put the knife down and then shove the piece of steak in your mouth.
Like
Whereas,
that.
yeah, G-rated, but that's okay. Oh. Good to go. Hey, Pickle. And, but yeah, the European way, you never have to put utensils down. It's do it in one fell swoop. So when I die, you'll be like, man, that Amy, she taught me how to eat.
She taught me how to eat a piece of steak.
In a dignified lady like
I'll
me.
go to your funeral and put a knife and a fork.
And demonstrate. I love it.
On your pyre.
Yeah. But we've known each other a very long time.
Yeah.
And I love all of the fun drag queen things that you're doing. And you're doing story time at the local library.
Yeah,
Tell me about
that. There's this thing that started actually in Brooklyn called Drag Queen Story Hour, where drag queens read children's books to kids, like in classes and stuff. And so I was actually the first queen in Los Angeles we did it at this little cafe in Echo Park, and we read like kind of queer children's books, like, you know, Tommy wants a dress or something like that. And like, it's just such a rewarding experience. I mean, they're kids, so it's like they just think of me as some kind of like character, but it's so cool to be able to get in touch with them and to do that kind of work. I really love it. And I just read at a preschool, and then for literacy night at an elementary school. It was just so much fun. I mean, they're just like
pure.
They're like gay men in the clubs. Like, they're not that different. Actually,
they're and also like drunk toddlers as well.
So it's so much fun, and I love branching out and doing more unconventional. Yeah,
and just basically spreading fabulousness across the world, which I'm your little fairy pickle dust, which I love. But yeah, I mean, we've known each other when I was a freelance television producer, and then all the death stuff happened.
We've known each other a while, and we've kept in touch, which has been really nice. All these years.
I know, we have a good old time. But yeah, do you? Melanie says hi all. Hey, Melanie.
Hi, Melanie.
How's the place that you live?
Life.
I think Melanie is from Cape Cod. I always think it's New England, but then I forget. Sometimes I think it's in Maine, but then I think it's Cape Cod as well. So I think you're in Cape Cod, Melanie. Let me know if you are. Cape Cod.
Cape Cod.
Yes. I am smart and
I was right.
I know. That's right. So you've kind of been such a great friend through all of the griefy shenanigans, basically. And I don't know, have you noticed a difference in?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you really transformed through the whole process. I mean, you've always been someone with a lot of integrity and someone that I really look up to in a lot of ways. Like, you know, you've always taught me like kind of these adulty lessons that maybe I didn't necessarily pick up on my own, or you know, like, you've always symbolized to me like a certain level of togetherness. And then, you know, you had this death experience and you really took it. I mean, you know, it's like you seem to have handled it in such a way that has been transformative as opposed to, you know, debilitating. And you've really like a calling. So you just seem to have so much purpose after it, and so much wisdom to offer on the subject, and really took it as an opportunity, I think, to be of service to others and like to spread that instead of letting it crush you, because it was a lot. Like, I remember being like, God, really? Again? Like, I was like, no, I thought it was just her mom, and then it was your dad, and then it was your grandma. I was like, Jesus. But like, you know, sometimes like the higher power steps in ways, I think, that are, you know, seem horrible, but are also just transformative. And you really taught me a lot about that, you know, and prepared me in some ways and got me thinking about death and how, you know, it's kind of a yin and a yang, and that it's sad to lose people, but it's also good to remember them, and that it just happens to everyone, and that it doesn't just happen to the person that dies, it happens to all the people around them. And, you know.
And it can be an opportunity for growth.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's an opportunity for growth, and, you know, but it will bring you to your knees, and then you'll grow. You're like, I don't feel like growing right now. That's definitely how I felt after my mom and then my granny died. I was just like, and then my dad died, and I was just like, wait, or what? No, I don't need to learn any more lessons. We've got a few more people tuning in. We've got Natalie. She says, "Hi, ladies. I love these live shows." And she said, and Natalie also says that, yes, the positive spin on death really helps, which is great. Hi, Mark. Mark says, "You're just wise, girl." And then Bob is joining. Bob and Beth are joining. This is so fun. So tell me where you guys are tuning in from. And then we're gonna talk a little bit, since you were talking about it, made you kind of think of, you know, death and advanced planning. And I bet, and may I ask your age? It's not polite to ask a lady her age, but may I ask? Would you like to tell, or are you a Hollywood 29?
Well,
like I am.
I'm immortal, but I'm 25 as
Right.
human. I think the pickle is a ripe 42, maybe. I've gotten a lot. People usually think that I'm a lot older than I am when they don't know me as a boy. I've gotten a lot of like 45-year-olds being like, "You're my age, right?"
Wow.
And I'm just like,
It's because Pickle's so mature.
because I'm sophisticated.
That's right. Or sophisticated. Yes, that's right.
Sophisticated lady.
Yes.
With hairy legs.
And then, we're getting an angry face. No, you're not sophisticated.
Oh gosh.
No, it makes me laugh so hard when I get an angry face. I know, it just reminds me of just like a couple months ago, be like, we're live at the White House, and you just see all of these anger faces floating past. But no, we like people to express their emotions. So you're young, but have you experienced any kind of major death yet? Or
I haven't experienced, other than my grandparents, and peripherally, I've seen death happen. Not in my immediate sector necessarily, knock on wood, but I've had people close to me lose people like you, and it's definitely like, it's like a ripple effect. It really makes you think that, and it could happen. It could happen to anyone, and it's not necessarily like a thing to walk through life fearing, but a thing to definitely be aware of and be in acceptance of. It's like you can be afraid of death, or you can acknowledge that it's there and just live your life.
And how do you accept it? How do you, or do you have any advice on other people out there who are having trouble kind of accepting it or thinking about it?
I don't, I try to live as best I can one day at a time, thinking about like, okay, well, if I were to die today, am I cool with that? And I find that actually is like, helps me try to be a better person. Because I'm like, okay, well, I would be happy with where I'm at if I'm moving through the world in a way that is positive and I'm spreading love, So I find that, not that I wake up being like, okay, I could die, so I gotta be a good person today, but like,
whatever works.
I try to be like, I'm in acceptance of this. It could happen, but I'm not going to be afraid of it. I'm going to, and that allows me, I think, on some level to, live my life in a way that's positive. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel like if you have a death awareness or a death positive outlook, it's not really about death. It's more about the life you live, and it's just a good reminder about what you're doing every day, and are you sharing love, and because that's the whole reason we're here. Melanie said that she just celebrated her first anniversary of her 45th birthday. I like how she's thinking.
Oh, how charming.
Hey, Melanie. And then Melanie's experienced loss with both of her sets of grandparents and her mom. I mean, that's another topic we're going to talk about, especially as we ramp up for the holidays, is, what happens when you lose a parent, and then what's the other remaining parent? How has that dynamic changed? Because we all have our specific roles in our family, and then once, the apple cart's kind of tipped over, it affects everybody. And so, like, we're going to talk about, basically, if your mom dies, how's the dad acting? Because I have a lot of friends who've lost their moms, and a lot of the dads kind of don't know what to do because stereotypically they haven't been the primary nurturer in the family, and yet it's kind of down to them to kind of guide everybody. And a lot of times the dads fail, but I talk about dads versus dudes. Is it because I was really upset with my dad because he really wasn't there for me, even though he had been divorced from my mom for 40 years. But I realized it wasn't a dad thing, it was more of a dude thing. Like, he didn't know how to be there for me, because he didn't know how to kind of process it himself. But anyway, we'll talk about that as we're ramping up towards the holidays and talking about, how to prepare for the holidays, especially when you're grieving or if you lost someone. I mean, I didn't really think about it much, and then November 1st hit, and then I was just like, oh God, the holidays are coming. And it's just like the whole cavalcade of like, family in your face, and family time to be together. I know, and you're just kind of like, ooh. But it kind of reminded me, and then we're going to talk about why advanced planning is important in the LGBTQ community, and it's important in every community, but especially so in the LGBTQ community. But Yeah, it was one of those things where I went on a road trip with my friend, and we went across the country. This was right after my dad died, a couple months after he died, and we were kind of prepping in the car on the way, starting our trip. And she was like, "Oh, here's my emergency numbers, and here's who's to call, who to call in case something happens along the way. Who do we call for you?" And I was like, "Oh,
My cell phone.
I know. Let me think about that. Gosh, well, I don't have any family left, so I guess, so I just gave him Pickle's number. So, are you good? Are you good in an emergency?
We talk daily.
Yeah.
Very comforting.
Let's see. Melanie is saying that, oh yeah, okay. So she said, what happens to a parent when one parent dies? And she's like, remarriage. I was like, yeah.
They give me a call.
I know, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. But yeah. So anyway, I wanted to talk about why it's so important for the LGBTQ community to get their advanced planning in order. And even though you're young, you do live away from home. And I think one of the misconceptions is that for people, especially young people who live away from home, they think, I'm not rich, so I don't have to get my advanced planning paperwork together. I mean, I know we look rich, but in actual fact, we're both single. And the thing is, if something happens to us, somebody, one of our friends and a member of your family is going to have to go into your apartment and kind of dismantle everything.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that I feel like with any advanced planning, be it like I'm going to sound a bit like a hypocrite. I don't have a retirement fund, but it's never too early to be ready. So it's like, there are things, sometimes I think about oh gosh, I should have some kind of thing, because if I were to die tomorrow, which I wouldn't want to die tomorrow, I don't feel like I should die tomorrow, but if it were to happen, I would want to be remembered in a certain way. I would want my services to go a certain way. I wouldn't want it to be just like, God, this is just so horrible, for everyone involved. I do have people that I would like to, I have relationships with people. I have things that I would like people to hear. I have songs that I would like people to know that made me think of them. I have, a whole life. And to me, it's like, yes, it's a little macabre to put together an advanced planning sheet, but it's an opportunity to think about your life. And even where I'm at, at 25, I've lived a life. A lot in the Middle Ages, they didn't get much farther than 25. That was a life. And I've experienced a lot of things, and I don't think that it's, too early to think that if I were to pass away, which would be tragic, as all death is tragic.
The world would be less fabulous.
The world would crumble under our feet.
Yeah.
But before that happened, I would like there to be a nice celebration of my life. I wouldn't want it to be, I would want people to grieve, but I wouldn't want it to just rattle the world of the people that I love.
Right.
I would want them to know that I love them, and that, there was purpose in everything in my life and in my death, ultimately.
Yeah, I love that. And also, it's really important in the LGBTQ community because, stereotypically, a lot of the members of that community don't have traditional family surrounding them. A lot of time I've heard the expression called, logical kin, or just your choice.
Chosen family, yeah.
Your chosen family. And so forget about dying, but what if, you're walking down the street and you trip on one of your, 5-inch heels, and you get some sort of head injury, and then you fell into a coma. Who is going to make decisions on Pickle's behalf? That's something to think about too. And, when you have chosen family surrounding you, and maybe your traditional family isn't along for the big gay ride, there could possibly be some legal issues there, because your wishes and those of your chosen family, who know you and understand you and appreciate you, they're going to have different ideas from hanging out with you than maybe some of your family members might.
Yeah, and how do you want to be remembered? You know, I do have friends that have chosen family as opposed to who don't have a good relationship with their immediate family, and although that's very sad and like, you know, there's other stuff at play there, it's like, you know, it is possible to have your chosen family be the ones who we can prevent these situations where, you know, the death of people in the LGBTQ community, they're being handled poorly.
Yes.
It's like, this is a preventable thing. It's not the 60s anymore.
Yes.
You know, it's like, you can
point.
have your chosen family be the ones who
will make decisions on your behalf.
Like, you know, so why not? You know, it's like.
But it's got to be legal, and it can't be legal unless you write it down, unless you fill out the paperwork. And it's so crucial for people. We just have a couple people. Sharon is joining us. She said she's taking a break right now from Danny's. No, not she's. You're like, Denny's. Hey. By the way, I ate at Denny's a few weeks ago at midnight in the desert. I went out for meteor shower, and I ordered the nachos. And you know what the description was on the menu? It said nacho meat.
I know, because I remarked on that. I was in a Denny's with my friend, and I was like, nacho meat.
Yeah.
What part of the cow do you think that is?
I don't know.
I've never heard of the nacho cut.
Yeah, or is it like is nacho a weird animal? Desert animal that we're not sure about?
The nachos, they're so plump.
I just thought that was really strange. But you learn something new every day. But no, Sharon is in the middle of death duties. Sadly, her brother passed away, and she is in the thick of it. So we're feeling your pain, my friend. David North says, love you, PICKLE. Hi, David.
Good to see you.
Thanks for joining us. We're just talking about why it's so important for members of the LGBTQ community to actually get their advanced planning sorted. It's so important to write your wishes down and to talk about it with your community and your chosen family or logical kin rather than traditional family or traditional kin. And it's really important to name a healthcare proxy in case something happens to you. I mean, I wouldn't know, you know, would you want extraordinary measures taken to, you know, support you, like life support, if there was no quality of life afterwards?
It depends on how good I look.
You know?
Like
PICKLE's going deep, you guys.
If like my face was busted beyond repair, pull the cord. But if I'm looking good, like
like you are now,
maybe keep me around.
I mean, like this, all right now. You're like, let's keep it going. David also says that Alex Imond is here.
Alex, hi, okay. How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see all of you guys. And so another kind of aspect of advanced planning for the LGBTQ community, which is so hard for me to say because I'm dyslexic, and so I have bunched up the letters so many different times, but
L through Q. Let's say L.
L through Q. That is fantastic.
L-Q.
L-Q. Yeah. That's going to help a lot. But one aspect of advanced planning is, and I'm going to go for a stereotype here. Okay. A lot of I would say almost every single one of my gay friends has an amazing personality. They've got the flair, they've got the flamboyance. And if they live their lives in such a fun, fabulous way, wouldn't you think that they would want their deaths to be the same thing? You know, whether it's leading up to death or whether it's actually their funeral service or, you know, their life celebration. It needs to be as fabulous as, you know, they are. And so there's a lot of personality in this community. And, you know, who would want a service where everyone's dressed in black and, you know, it's like we were talking before, just very
I want my funeral
somber.
Very, very serious.
Yeah.
But
do you really?
No, not really.
Okay.
But
I
want everyone to look at. I think I think what it boils down to me for in terms of, you know, especially the LGBTQ community is like whether you've got a more eccentric personality or you're not, or whatever your personality is, it's choosing how it is that your death is handled, you know, and how you want to be remembered, and everyone, you know, every community, every every person should have some agency in choosing how they are celebrated when they pass, and take that as an opportunity in life to celebrate, to be appreciative of the life that you have. I think about, like, when I think about death and I think about, you know, how I'll be remembered, and I really do take a moment to celebrate. In my head, I get a little bit grateful, because it's like, wow, you know, I have met some extraordinary people. I have done some really fun things. And even if I got hit by an ice cream truck tomorrow, which is possible because they seem to meet regularly in my neighborhood, just like all of them, you know, I would want to know that people weren't just grieving my death, they were celebrating it as well.
Right. Let's see, Bob Rice has joined us. Hi, Bob. And Victoria Ann has joined us, and Victoria says, I work in long-term care, and a big thing people forget is that a power of attorney dies when the person does. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not a doctor, but I have kind of lived through this, and I will say that I was my granny's power of attorney. But then once my granny died, that power of attorney is null and void, and then whoever is the executor of that person's will then takes over. So, you know, for the people in the LGBTQ community watching, if you guys have a living will, you know, already, and it's also called an advanced healthcare directive, or you already have a power of attorney listed, you also should have an executor listed in your will, because once you die, the power of attorney privileges also die with you. So that's a lot. So Bob says, hi, Amy and LGBTQ community. All of them are watching.
They're in my cleavage and keeping them there.
Pickle has smuggled all of them in.
Every single one.
But yeah, I don't want to stereotype and say that, you know, all of the community are fabulous and therefore they should have fabulous services and funerals. But
I think that, you know, I think that the issue of LGBTQ families and what they look like, and, you know, how they're different and how they're similar,
it's unconventional
to, you know, what in the past has been considered a conventional family. I think that's important when it comes to things like advanced planning, because I don't think it's necessarily about conforming to the heterosexual model, but accommodating so that, you know, every, you know, situation can be, you know, properly handled and be properly taken care of.
The way you would want it to.
The way I would want it to.
Due to your beliefs, you know, reflective of your beliefs and the way you live your life. Yeah, it's key. And also, you know, I love that, you know, and that's what Good to Go is all about too. It's fighting against the traditional model of advanced planning, which is just dry and boring, and nobody talks about it, and people think they've got to get dressed up in suits and formally go into an office with a, you know, drippy guy in a suit.
And that it's just horrible.
Yeah, and that it's horrible and depressing and sad and morbid and things like that, and it's not at all. It can be whatever you want it to be, and I do feel that if you talk about these things, it will allow you to live your life more freely and with more gratitude. And that's the thing, when people leave the parties that I do, you know, some people are like, oh, aren't the parties depressing, and do people cry all the time? And I'm just like, no, people leave the parties euphoric that they're alive.
Yeah, that they're alive and that there's a plan.
Yeah, and that there's a plan in place.
And then you don't have to think about it.
And then you don't have to think about it.
And then you don't have to spend your last waking moments on earth
scrambling,
thinking like, oh my God, there's no plan.
Right. Like when you go in years from now for your plastic surgery, for your facelift and your tummy tuck and all of that, you know, you're going to be like, I'm good. I got all my advanced planning done. I don't have to think about it. I can just focus on me.
And I moisturize.
And well, isn't that what you want on your headstone?
Yeah.
She moisturized.
She moisturized. He watched.
Yeah. I love it. Well, if you guys have any questions, let us know, or any experiences in your community. If you've had, you know, people talking about advanced planning, or, you know, bringing it up, or how you know, do you have any advice on how to bring it up? And, you know, and this is the thing I've been talking to Pickle for ages about, like, let's get a drag queen good to go party together. You know, I want to get you and all of your drag friends good to go. And yet I know that there's a lot of resistance because, you know, people think that they're going to live forever, even if they're young.
Mm-hmm. Well, it doesn't seem like a good investment to young people. But I think that that's silly. It's
selfish.
like, you know, selfish.
Sorry, I'm coming from it from a whole nother, you know, I actually get violent. I'm like, what do you mean you don't have your events planned? You're stupid. I'm like, maybe I should soften that approach.
Soften the approach.
Just
Put a lens over it, a filter.
That's right, the
Star
Barbara
Wars
Walters.
lightning.
I like the Barbara Walters
Yeah.
hazy filter of Vaseline on the lens, as they used to say. Well, we're going to wrap up here because we've been going on for a half hour now. But where can people in Los Angeles see Pickle? This is what we want to know.
I host trivia every Wednesday night at Bar Mattachine in downtown Los Angeles. I'm also at Flaming Saddles in West Hollywood on Fridays and Sundays for brunch. And you can follow me on Instagram at It's Pickle Bitch. And also, I'm a blur in the background of Katy Perry's Swish Swish music video.
Oh my gosh, that's right. Because I wasted 4 minutes of my life watching this Katy Perry video, looking for you, and yet
I'm
I
there.
didn't see
You just have to pause and zoom, and then you can kind of see the blurry.
And what was that like? Did you get to talk to Miss Perry?
Katy Perry held my arms.
How?
And looked straight into my eyes.
Oh my gosh.
It was bizarre.
I love it.
She has
Do you
gray
feel
eyes.
changed?
Very changed. She's very rich.
If only we could have Katy Perry's money by
She
osmosis.
smelled like money.
Oh my gosh, I love it. That's what I said Oprah smelled like when I interviewed Oprah on the red carpet. Melanie says, come this way. She says, you need to set one up in Provincetown. A drag queen good to go party or a good to go or a drag queen story hour. She said, see her other posts. But we, yeah, just a random drag kiosk.
Just a drag kiosk for all your needs. I'll entertain you. I'll do your laundry. I'll watch your kid.
Read a story to your kids, and then
get your good to go packet for
encourage you for the good to go packet. I love it. Melanie says, have a good night, and then she loves the hair on both of us. I just got my hair done. I got my roots done, so I get a little pink and purple put in just for funs. Just for funsies.
Why not?
I know. Well, anyway, thanks you guys for tuning in. We're ramping up for the holidays, Grievers and Groovers, and it's intense. But I'm going to be here with you, and we're going to talk about how, you know, to get through the holidays when you're grieving and grooving. And I want to thank you, Pickle.
Thank you for having me.
Here.
It was a delight.
I know, and I've got to come down on trivia night. I've got to get a group of people together. And I know you can't win if you don't play.
You can't win if you don't play. Well, I mean.
Well, yeah. Anyway, any final words? Any final thoughts?
Stay golden, Coney boy. Pony boy. Pony boy. Okay.
I love Pony Boy. Okay. All right. Take care, you guys. Love you.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.